When we think of the word spirit, it has a lot of meaning for us in different ways. The Latin word for spirit was breath or inspiration. The spirit of life can thus be understood as an inspiration for life, or the very breath of life. It can be felt as a loving force, a life force, or in the words of philosopher and theologian Herman Thurman, a growing edge, the upward reach of life when weariness closes in upon all endeavor. So, something that undergirds you in weariness. Spirit of life can be experienced as a god or goddess, as a deity unfolding, a divine comforter. It can be felt as the collective human spirit, power of nature, an innate wisdom. Each person finds meaning that speaks to his own understandings and experiences. Today is Pentecost Sunday in the Catholic Church and many Christian churches around the world, and they celebrate and commemorate that the Holy Spirit was felt in a unique way by the apostles of Jesus of Nazareth. Now, when I look out here, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't see any flames on top of the heads of any of you. What's the matter here? And that's because for Unitarian Universalists, what the Spirit is not is a being apart, something separate, something unique that is not of this world. It is not necessarily a separate Holy Spirit. It is actually the Holy Spirit of life that is actually in that flame that's within each of you, and that I do see, and in myself. That is the spirit of life that I think was experienced by those apostles in that day and is experienced by us. But sometimes we forget, and sometimes the words from the past don't always comfort us, and we need to recapture that word spirit so that it expresses what we believe. It takes the roots of other faiths and how they saw the spirit of life, from animists to theists and everybody in between, and connects to how we see that spirit of life and how we see that every day is a Pentecost experience if we're willing to be open and aware and see it. And as the responsive reading said, see it in ourselves and like what we see. Imperfection is a part of life. The Spirit and the grace of the Spirit washes over imperfections. So, how do you celebrate rituals and celebrations that express a spirit of life in your life? What calls you to care and compassion? How does your spirituality relate to the earth and our natural environment? What are the roots that you hold close and the wings that have set you free? If you could reach your full potential as a person in touch with the spirit of life, when you talked about in this meditation, what would you be like? How would you be different than you are today? And whether you're 5 or 95, every day is a new day. So choice is central to us as Unitarian Universalists. If someone tells us to go left, we immediately go right. Well, most people here go left, but that's okay. But we don't do something because someone tells us to. And it's the same thing with understanding our beliefs, choosing our priorities, choosing what supports us. And I say that the practices we do make choices within the context of our heritage and community in the spirit of love. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that truth or revelation is continually unfolding. And that's why when we talk about the spirit of life, it is something that grows and changes, and we're aware in different ways every day. It is new. We learn from our own experiences. We also learn from the experiences of one another. In fact, it's important to question our own experiences. They don't always lead us in the right direction. We need to bounce our experiences off of others. Spirit of life for us is based on our principle of a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. It is in the context of a covenant that we make with each other. So most of us as Unitarian Universalists came here from another ethical and religious journey. Most of us did not grow up as UUs. Can we have a raise of hands of how many people actually grew up as Unitarian Universalists? Yeah. Good. 1, 2, yeah. And you're not a member, right? See that? Good. Good for you. A true Unitarian Universalist. Okay. We grow up, we were Catholics, Protestants, Jews, Muslims, Baha'i, Mormons, pagans, naturalists, secular humanists, agnostics, and atheists. Indeed, our journeys are as broad and wide as humanity itself. Even those who grew up as UUs took their own journey, right, and become as adults a new Unitarian Universalist if they decide in their own journey of what they want to become. Now, some say that a Unitarian Universalist congregation is more like a recovery group. Ex-Catholics, ex-Jews, ex-Mormons, ex-Protestants, all in recovery from their past, right? We've heard that before. Others say that Unitarian Universalist services are more like Rotary Club meetings. Good topics, meaningful discussions, good food, good social time, but devoid of any spiritual depth, transcendent truths, rituals, and practices that we see in traditional Christian, Jewish, and Muslim services. Heck, we don't even have a sacred book. The only sacred thing we have is the sacred clipboard for sign-ups for the social hour. And believe me, that's sacred. People have told me. And our secular humanists and atheists might criticize Unitarian Universalists for holding on to transcendent beliefs that they feel were long debunked through our enlightenment. All of this has some degree of truth to it. Because the spirit of a Unitarian Universalist community is non-creedal and based on principles in a covenant, sometimes it's hard to grab around those principles and understand that covenant and the deep spirituality within. And to me, that is key. Sometimes we have to retake words that might have been taken or removed, or we might have let go, and understand the spirituality of spirit of life is something that is sacred to each one of us. We don't need books to hold over our heads and with outdated dogmas and superstition and actually some blatant bigotry. And we don't need personal egos to get in the way for us to believe and connect with a bigger picture. Sometimes that's called God, the universe, the transcendent, nature, or simply, for some of us, the bigger picture. And that's okay. Here's the thing I think it's vitally important for us to embrace and really recognize is that we all come from these pasts. But I can tell you, a community does not survive on people just coming from past. We give up things, we let go of things, we take things, we bring things with us. That's all important. But a community survives by how we move forward together. Not our past, but our present into our future. We come here because our spiritual and ethical journey led us here. And perhaps because we wanted or needed to leave our past spiritual or ethical journey behind, or at least some of it. I always say, some things we leave behind and some things we want to keep with us. And that's okay. But we come here because we want to develop a new spirit of life. We found here a spirit of life in this community that connected to our personal spirit of life within us. We need to be aware of that spirit of justice, spirit of love, spirit of compassion, spirit of inclusion. spirit of caring. That inner flame of justice, that spirit of life that drew us here, now calls us to co-create our spiritual and ethical journey together in this community. We are a small community in Jacksonville, but this is the community we have chosen. The spirit of life for us is not some superpower directing our movement and decisions. The ability to thrive depends on the spirit within each one of us going forward. Now, we have visitors that come every week. Not a ton today, but that's okay. And they stay with us for a while. Even if just for a few moments in our lives, they have a need to be with us, and perhaps we were able to help meet that need to some degree. In their spirit of life, they were led to come here, and then sometimes they were led to move on and past us, and that is okay. We are a good step along the way of their spiritual and ethical journey. Others come, and they're not quite emotionally ready to absorb and take on what the spirit of life is offering here. Perhaps the pain they endured in the past, institutional religion, is still too painful, even to be here in the progressive, liberal religious community we offer. Perhaps they need to retreat for a while, regroup, build up their resilience and vulnerability in order to join a spiritual and ethical community again. And all of this is okay. We're all on an individual path, and we can be a beacon of light to each one of them. But are we simply a Rotary Club meeting? Do we have to defend ourselves when we say that everything is sacred? That all we do, all we meet, all of our experiences, even the difficult ones, everywhere we go is indeed sacred? That the social hall is no less sacred than the sanctuary? The office no less sacred than a meditation space? The car ride home in traffic no less, well, maybe a little less, than the majestic mountain or ocean wave. No, we look for sacred in life itself. And perhaps we don't talk about it enough in spiritual terms. Perhaps some of those terms got lost in their meaning, and we need to recapture. Because as Unitarian Universalists, we tend to be a wide band from spiritual humanists to theists. And we know that we are part of a bigger picture, but we refuse to be burdened by outdated judgments that some use to try to manipulate us and others, holding a judgmental God over us, or bigotry, sexism, racism, and classism. To quote from Unitarian Universalist minister Dr. Morrison Reed on the task of a religious community, he says, "The central task of our community is to unveil the bonds that bind each of us. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice." That connectedness, that is that our church assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength is too limited to do all that must be done. Together our vision widens and our strength is renewed. Indeed, our community thrives because we're in this for the long haul. We're committed to this run, not as a marathon, or as a marathon, not as a sprint. We know that some days we have to sprint, but you can't sprint forever. You gotta be able to recoup, rest, recalibrate, and move on, and you need support of others. Are there literally hundreds, if not thousands, of like-minded folks in Northeast Florida? Yes. Where are they? They're home. They're smart. No. Yes, there are. And we'll continue to offer a spiritual and ethical home to them here in Jacksonville, in Fernandina Beach, in Orange Park, at the Buckman Bridge, Unitarian Universalist Church, and in the Unitarian Universalist Church in St. Augustine, and of course online. We'll reach out to others. There are others in other faiths and groups that are like-minded. And whether it's the free thinkers or the church on Park and, was it Park and King? That's part of iCare, that reached out to me and said, we need to get together. We have a lot of similarities. And I think that's important for us because as a small congregation, we need to grow together with others that are like-minded. So I know this is boring, and I know this is sounds shallow and not very exciting, but these are some recommendations I have for you to keep this community strong. We're going to attend to the small things. Sign up for social hour. Sue, raise your hand. Don't make Sue get mad at me. Become a worship associate. It's not that hard. Crystal, join the tech group. Help Crystal. She'd like to take a vacation sometime in the next 2 years. Become a greeter. Help maintain the gardens. Rick, are you here? Yes, back here. Rick can actually do it all by himself, but he doesn't. There's a whole group of people that actually do that. Sign up to help in the RE program or the nursery, even if it's just once a month. Ask where you can help. And I know this sounds tedious or boring, but it actually is how we work here. We do it ourselves. We have a small staff and a large group of volunteers. Green Sanctuary is looking for a new chair. You don't have to become the new chair, although Donna would appreciate that. When you leave as a chairman, we assign you to the board, so Donna just knows. No, I'm just kidding. Building and Grounds, Worship Committee, the Music Committee. If you want to accompany songs and hymns, I've enjoyed Tony joining us. Let Jeannie, Hope, or me know. Expand and extend your wings. Some of us are not getting younger in this room. It doesn't make a difference. We prioritize what we can do, what we'd like to do. We can't do everything, and sometimes we can't do everything we used to do, but we can do something. And I want you to understand that if you expand your wings a little bit, you will get better at flying. You fly differently. Kids that I coach tell me I'm not 16 anymore when they say they are older. And I say, well, I'm not 60 anymore. We're not. So, but we relate to every time and every part of our age where we're at. Age is just a number. We're going to keep our mind and our body working. I want us to help out in the community and let our presence be known. And I don't want us to be shy about being a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church. The first thing people ask you is what church you go to, right? They expect an answer like the Downtown Methodist or First Baptist or something like that, right? And so be ready with your 30-second answer of what Unitarian Universalist Church is. For example, it's a non-creedal church that welcomes everyone to develop their own spiritual and ethical journey. They will have no clue about what you just said. But they'll be impressed that you just said it, and it wasn't the Nicene Creed or the Ten Commandments or something, you know? I mean, so just the fact that you have something. Next week, we're going to talk about the board's mission and goals for this year, just so we can understand where we are as a community. If we don't understand that, it's hard to move forward if we don't know where we're going, right? As the quote says. And finally, our Pentecost is the light that we have within. And it's a light that we share in the degree and the ability we have to do so. And it doesn't mean you got to be all out there to everything and everybody and exhaust your light. It does mean that in the way you are able, share that life. The spirit of life is within us, but it's bigger than us. And again, if we allow it to be what it wants to be, what it was meant to be, who we were meant to be, we will hold on to our roots and we will expand through our wings. This is the safe place that we have chosen to support one another on our life journey. And I'm not saying we have to have our best friends here, although some of us do, but I do want to say it's a safe place for us to support one another and for us to be open and vulnerable to being friends with each other here. I think that is important, that as a loving community, we know each other and we're able to be here for each other.